Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, ManojWeb, where my goal is to make your front-end life easier. In today's video, we're going to be learning how to create these directionally aware buttons, which detect where you click on the button and create the hover effect based on that. So if I click on the left side, you can see the hover started there. If I click on the right side, it started there. Middle, it starts there. Wherever I click, that's where the hover effect is going to begin. We're going to use CSS and JavaScript to create these effects. So without any further ado, let's get started. Alright, so let's get started. First, all we have is right now is a button which says click me, and I already added some styling to it. So I have a button, its font, its padding, and a background of this, right? When you hover on it. And what we want to do is make this a directionally aware button. So how we're going to do this is we're going to add a span inside the button, right? Make that span, right? So we have a span inside the button. What we'll do is make that span position absolute and make the button right here position relative. So now the position of the span will be relative to the button itself. Then we'll use JavaScript, get access to the mouse's position, and move the span based on where we click within the button. And that's where the span will be, and that's what will create the effect because we'll be scaling the span up to cover the whole thing. That's how we'll be creating the effect of a directionally aware button. So if you didn't understand what I'm talking about, we'll be going through it step by step now. So right now I just added a span. Let's style the span so we can actually see what's happening. I'll give it a width of 20 pixels. I'll give it an aspect ratio of 1, so 1 to 1, which means the width and the height will be the same. I'll give it a background of red. I'll give it position absolute. I'll give it inset of 0. Inset of 0 means the top, left, bottom, and right values are 0. And what we'll do is border radius. You want to make it a circle just because you actually don't have to make it a circle, but it looks better that way. And I think we're ready. We'll just add a transition on this transform because that's what we will be updating later. I think that should be it for the span. So let's get started with the JavaScript now. So we'll get access to the button document dot query selector. We'll get the button, and then we'll get the button span equals document dot query selector button span. So the span inside the button. So now we have access to both of those. Now we'll do is add an event listener to the button. Add event listener of type click because this will happen when we click. We want to get access to the event so we can access the client X and client Y. But now here's going to be a problem, and I want you to see if you can figure out the problem before I show it. So if I do what's it called, button span dot style dot left equals event dot client X plus pixel, and if I do button span dot style dot top equals event dot client Y plus pixels, I want you to figure out why this wouldn't work. Right? 3, 2, 1. So now if I click on this, you can see the dot. It's all the way down here for some reason, right? Well, the reason is because what the client X returns is the position of the mouse based on the whole body. So that's what we're setting the left and the top to, is the distance from the whole screen instead of the distance from the button itself. So this wouldn't work. What we have to do is use this new property, which I'll show you, is like rectangle equals event dot target dot, I believe it's called get bounding client rectangle. Yes, get bounding client rectangle. So what this does is it finds 4 different values for us. It finds the distance from the top of the whole body to the top of this button. That's one of the values. It finds the distance between the top of the whole body and the bottom of this button. That's another one of the values. From the left of the host body and the left of this button, that's another value. And from the left of the body to the right of this button, that's another value. You can see in this diagram here, like with the four values that were given, and we can use those values to figure out how much we should go left and how much we should go right. So we can do x is equal to rectangle dot, actually it's my bad, as the client x is the higher value, we'll do event dot client x minus rectangle dot left. This gives us the distance from the left of the body and the left of the button, that distance, and we're subtracting that from the client x, which will give us our x value. And we'll also subtract 10 so to make sure the circle is centered because the width is 20 pixels. We'll do y equals event dot client y minus rectangle dot top minus 10. So now we got our x and y values. All we have left to do is button span dot style dot left equals x plus pixels, right? And then button span dot style dot right equals x plus pixels. Now, if we click on this button, as soon as I think it loads, oh, because I did right, I need to do top, and I need to change that to y, not x. All right. So once we do that, wherever we click, the span is going to go there, right? So we've got that step figured out. We also want to make sure the span is behind the text but front of the background. So what we can do is give it a z index of -1 and go here, give this an isolation of isolate. So this will bring it behind the text but in front of the background because it creates a separate stack for it. So now that we've gotten that, what we want to do is make the button span bigger, which means we're going to apply a transform of scale on it. So style dot transform is going to equal scale, and it's got to be a pretty big scale because it's got to go all the way. So it's going to get bigger in a circle, right? So it's going to go the left way as well as the right way. So we need to be able to access the whole thing. You'll see what I mean once I do it. 40, let's say. Wherever I click, see it barely covers the whole circle. Oh, 405. Holy. So 40, you can see it's, if I go to the edge here, it still kind of barely touches the thing. So 40 should work for the scale. We can get rid of the outside one using overflow hidden on here. So overflow hidden, if I do that. But we want to see what's going on for a bit longer, so I'll remove that for now. See, that removes that. But so now that we've gotten that, how do we get it back to normal size? Because whenever I click outside, it's not going back to normal size. Well, that's something else we got to do. We got to add another event listener to the button, which runs this function whenever whenever we run out of focus on this button. So focus out. So when the button is no longer in focus, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do button span dot style dot transform equals scale of 1. Simple. So now if I click here, if I click outside, it goes back to normal. Click here, click outside, goes back to normal, right? Now, but if we click within the button, it just moves this thing. It doesn't go back to normal, which is not what we want. So how we can fix that is create a Boolean variable, let is inflated, which tells us if it's inflated. By default, it's not going to be inflated. And we'll only do this if it is not inflated. Only then will we make it, only then will we inflate it. However, if it is inflated, if I can get this. All right, the strings, okay. Once, if it is inflated, what we'll do is create button span dot style dot transform equals scale of 1. So it goes back to normal. And then we'll do is inflated equals not is inflated. So the opposite of whatever it was before. So if it's true, it's going to be false. If it was false, it's going to be true. So now if I click here back, it goes back. See? Why does it do that? I honestly don't know why it's doing that. Does anybody know? If somebody knows why it did that, can they put them in the comments? Why does it do that though? That's weird. Maybe I think we can fix it if I move all of this, like where it calculates the position within is not inflated. So if it's not inflated, only then will it do all that. So if I, yeah, I think that fixes it. Yeah, that fixes the problem. So it'll only calculate the position if it's not inflated. If it is inflated, it will not calculate the position, just make it back, go back to normal. Okay, so yeah, that fixes that problem. Now let's talk about, I think, the coloring. That's what's left to make it blend in with this background, right? So by default, the color should be, I believe, right here. I'll just copy that and paste it here instead of red. So by default, it'll blend in. And I'll also add the overflow now, so because we don't need to see much, folks. As you can see, we can kind of start to see the effect. We'll also get rid of this hover effect on here because that'll just make it worse for us. And I believe the only thing I have to do is change the background of this when we inflate it. Style.transform equals, no, not transform, writing transform too much. Background equals, since I think it's RGB 80, 81, 255. I think that's the color. Oh, that's button, not button span. I gotta do button span. Once I click on that, yep. And when we uninflate it, we'll do button span dot style dot background equals RGB 150, 150, 255. And we'll do the same in this other area. I could probably create a function out of that, but I'm not gonna go do it right now. That's pretty weird, but it works. So what we have is a directionally aware button. If you wanted to, you could also add the background as a transition, I guess. It just looks kind of weird when it's about to reach its end. See, now it creates this effect based on where you click. So if you want to implement that in your website or any kind of button effect that you want to do, you're welcome to. So I think that's pretty much it. Let me just check, make sure I have nothing else. Yeah, that's it. That's how you create an inflated effect. What just happened? All right, something just happened. Oh, that's why. I was missing the S. Yeah, so that's how you create a directionally aware button. If you have any more questions, put them in the comments. Any more suggestions, please put them in the comments. I would greatly appreciate them. And that's pretty much it. See you next time.